This is Cliff Module Build Part 3, and in this video we will be covering the building of the rock face on the front side of the module. But first we're going to look at how the wiring's done before the rock face goes up. You can see the 1x2 brick with the channel in it. At the bottom, wire runs up to a 1x2 Technic brick, and the first floor ceiling comes back out of the same kind of brick, goes up to the second floor ceiling. Also, the panel provides a nice cavity to stuff the wire in while the bricks go up, so we don't have to use a lot of the channel bricks. Now, there's a 4 stud depth here at the bottom, and so since all the slope tiles are only 2, what we're doing is we're putting in a bunch of filler brick, which is obviously different colors. You just have to be careful as you're putting that in to make sure that all the color is covered up. You don't really want to be able to see the red or yellow, blue, white come through. As every other video will tell you, this is all about just trying to be as random as possible. And I do things where I turn the slopes into a different 90 degrees off so that I get a kind of different effect. And I also use curved slopes. I'll also use 1x1s with uh, a headlight type brick and then attach stuff to that. Here you can see I'm trying to stick in some kind of a curved slope. I'm probably not going to say a lot in this video because there isn't much to say except when certain things are going on. So again, right now we're just trying to fill in the space, and then we'll use the filler brick behind it so that it has something to lean up against and also attach to. So I do try on a regular basis to try to tie the slopes back into either the filler brick or whatever is behind it that can be attached to as often as possible. That gives it a lot more stability for traveling. The last thing you want is a single line slope that goes all the way to the top and it's only attached at the top. That just falls apart when you pick it up. You also notice that I kind of have a tendency to build in either 1/4 or 1/3 of the area and get to a certain height, and then I finally move over. Okay, so the wire is protected because there's 4 slopes or 4 studs there. Okay, I'm now just putting on the other module, the connector module that we use. That way I can kind of get it to match up on the edge. It doesn't have to be exact, but it needs to be close. And so for the wiring, all I have to do is leave a 1x2 hole there that the wire can run up until it gets to the 1x2 Technic brick with the pinhole. I do try to have things like I just put down there that go a different direction than just straight up and down. It just makes it look more realistic. Again, that this particular case to do that same thing, you end up using a 1x1 or a 1x2 brick with snot brick to be able to do that and have that thing on an a or have it run perpendicular to the rest of everything else. I'm not going to show it in this video, but I have done some experimentation of trying to do things on 45-degree angle and stuff like that by using round bricks, 1x1 round bricks, and then trying to turn things and to try to get just a little bit more variance in the what the rock work looks like. Now, occasionally there I'm trying to have to pull out some of the filler brick because you can see it through the rock work, and so I'm pulling it out to get in the thing right there. You can't see much what's going on, but that's basically what was going on there. I go through a lot of 1x plates, 1x2, 1x3, 1x4, 1x6. As I build this up, I guess I shouldn't stand so much. But I'm trying to look over the rock wall to see what's back there in the filler brick and what I need to put in there to make it work. You can see I took out a whole bunch of it and changed it, put it back in again. So the total angle here for this height is 5 studs. There's 4 studs on the floor, on the first floor, and then you can see that one stud sticking out on the second floor. Which will be a quasi-attachment point as we get up to that height. Again, some slopes that are put in there right angle to the direction. Just to try to give it a different look. It's such a fun time when one little piece falls down in the back there. You got to go digging it out. Sometimes you have to take apart what you build on the rock face and just hope you can put it back together the same way you did the first time. So now you can see the center's a little bit more built up than the two edges are built up. I'm trying to find out if there's a way to do this, and in the end, it's not going to work. Not exactly what I wanted to do, so come up with another plan. I mean, it's close. Those two slopes are offset by one stud, which makes it look a little better. You can tell something fell down, wasn't right. Had to take it apart, put it back together again. Now I'm just trying to fill in the back. So we're now getting to the point where there's sometimes two studs back there, sometimes only one, just because we're starting to slope back towards the top now. All right, now I'm going to slow it down and we're going to zoom in because I'm going to work around this hole where the wiring is. And so I'm going to kind of try to explain what's happening here. There's obviously one stud depth back behind that slope that just got put in. And that's keeping the bricks from pinching the wiring. That black square you see there is a Technic brick that is one of the braces for the floor. That's why it kind of looks strange. So now, trying to move the wires around just a little bit because I want to guide the wires in. And so I'm putting in one by one round bricks. And then the space between the round bricks up against the wall, there will be a channel there formed by two side by side round bricks, and that keeps the wire covered up and puts it into that Technic brick with a pinhole. So the wiring, that hole is now covered up by those one by one round bricks. Now I'm going to put some plates in to secure everything. There you go. So now those round bricks are secure, and I can kind of build up around this. Now we're going to pan over to the other side. This was a little bit more difficult. So what we're going to do here is the same thing. Going to put in one by one round bricks, and that channel behind them is just big enough for the wiring. But I need to force the wiring back into that cavity of the 1x6x5 panel. So to make that happen, we're going to use one by one round plates. And in an ideal world, what you want is you want two of these plates stacked up, and then the wire runs between the top of the bottom plate and the bottom of the top plate. And it just didn't work out the way it should have. So what I'm going to do is take off one plate. Actually took off two, but I'm going to put one back. I'm only going to put one in there. And then I want the wire to run just like that through there. And then I'm going to hold it in place while I put the other one by one round plate in. And that forces the wiring back into the cavity of the panel. Now I won't have to deal with it until I get to the top of the panel. The 1x2 bricks with channels in them, they're not highly expensive, but they're not inexpensive either. And so I try not to use them unless I have to. So now I just put in the one by one round bricks to hold the wire in place and cover it up. And now I can build around it just like there was nothing there before. Couple of plates, to sort of lock it in place, and it's all done. So that kind of completes the level up to where the sediment starts. And it's close. Still some more tan bricks to go in on the right side, but we're almost there. So when you're doing the sediment or dark tan and the medium nougat in this case, or the sediment strands or through the rock face, uh, you try to do it on plate widths, not plate heights, not brick heights. So then you probably don't want to vary it more than one brick height or three plate heights. So you're just trying to move it up and down a little bit to make it not look like it's just perfectly straight. That's the goal. And in this particular case, I'm just interspacing the dark tan and the medium nougat as I go along. Um, it's not ideal, probably. And I mean, I have a model train layout and I do mountains all the time. And so it's in that particular case, though, you have a whole lot more resolution than you do with these bricks. So you try to do the best you can. So I just do an interspersing of the two different colors there. I'm looking at it more as shadow than anything else. I mean, it's a little bit of change in the color of the sediments, but also just the shadows that get cast by the bricks. So one of the things that you can see is that the space behind the cliff or the rock wall is gotten down to one stud thickness, which is why the panels were put in because they fill it up pretty quick. And that's just about where that panel height is just about where the next layer of slopes will attach after we get through this dark tan medium nougat sediment section. Yeah, there's just really no magic. It's just trying to be as random as possible. That's the what we're trying to do here. And just as a reference point, this is actually a third generation rock build. The first ones I did many years ago for these modules were not very good, mostly because the sediment went up and down instead of, or vertical instead of horizontal like you would normally see it. So that had to get changed. And then the second one was okay, but it still didn't have everything that I wanted in it, and it most of them didn't have the sediment in it either. And so this is the third one, which is getting the sediment put into it, and it's getting built on the now what I call a standard platform cliff. So that just about finishes the sediment. It's pretty close to being there. A couple more pieces maybe. I mean, I'm always going back and looking at it and going, oh, wait a minute, that's too repetitive, and trying to randomize it up a little bit more. So now we're starting to change over to tan. Again, it's not a flat line. It varies around a brick height is ideal. And so you move it actually at plate height level. It's just the total variance is a brick height. Okay, so now I'm starting to put in the 1x2 bricks with the channels in them to cover up the wiring going into the 1x2 Technic brick with a pinhole in it so that so the wiring doesn't get pinched and that channel provides just enough space for the wiring that I'm using. There's still a little bit of filler brick back behind in some places, not much. As we're trying to come up to the top here and then bend over. The top is a little bit more continuously sculpted, and that's only because that's what the Blacktron Empire did when it built the base. So it actually sculpted the top a little bit so that it would be much simpler for them to exist on the or move around on the top of the plateau. Again, some headlight type bricks and then some one by one slopes go in it. Try to get to the minimal resolution that you can get to with these slopes. It's actually looking relatively nice at this point. I don't think I'm ever happy with it, but it's adequate. So now I'm just trying to connect up the slope to the top to give it the most stability it can get. Um, Getting close here. Probably getting it onto the last layer of slopes that need to be put in. And then there's some, I'll put slopes in on the top in the reverse order. They slope back down onto the plateau so that there's kind of a ridge along the edge. No, I apologize again for me being in the way. So now I'm just going to start putting tiles down just to finish off the top. There'll be a whole lot of tiles put in. And the last thing that'll go in after I get all the tiles in place are some plants and landscaping just to kind of fill in some of the holes and cover up a few things. Do a quick test here for stability just to make sure nothing's loose. Also trying to make the transition to that interconnection module just a little bit smoother. And I also found some things I want to change here. This is actually where the wiring is. So I put the 1x2 channel bricks back in. It came out a little bit farther than I liked, so I just changed it around a little bit. And here we are just putting on the little landscaping parts. Some more landscaping parts. And that will probably do it.